What's more important in language learning, vocabulary or grammar? That depends on the language. Anyway, you need both. An isolated language like Vietnamese has little grammar as it has no flexion but word order and helps syllables. On the other hand, if you have to mass up at least 8,000 words for basic understanding, as it is highly mixed up language with several word words for same things depending on region, your education background, blah blah blah. Whereas my mother language, German, grammar gives you a difficult start. It simply cannot be ignored. It can. You sound. I mean, you won't sound great if you ignore the grammar in German, but you can ignore the grammar. Uh, uh, on the other hand, basic German has little basic words, but many derivations and combinations, making new words much more intelligible. The thing with German is, by the way, I'm moving, not moving, I'm traveling to Germany tomorrow, visiting some friends, doing some work there. So anyway, even German, grammar is complicated. Yes, Russian even more complicated. Japanese, very complicated. Basque, my native language, extremely complicated, although logical grammar. But it doesn't change the fact that you can learn it in context relatively easily, as long as you practice enough. And neighbor's kid's going crazy. Um, and if you know the vocab, if you know the vocab grammar, you can learn it in context. If you know all the words in a sentence, you just have to keep like practicing, and then is when the input is comprehensible enough. If you know the grammar, okay, you don't know exactly the tense or whatever, but those things you learn by the context much easier than learning vocab in context. Because grammar, even the language with the most complicated grammar, has much less grammar than vocab. You don't have thousands of grammar items to learn. You always have thousands of words to learn. You even in a language that has super complicated grammar, let's say like my native language, Basque or Russian, um, you can speak with really bad grammar or German. Like if you there, the, does, and then all the conjugation, all the like meet them, and like if you do all that wrong, if the nouns and the verbs you're using are correct, people will understand you, and you will understand people. Yes, you'll speak at an A2 level, but that's a start. That's way better than not being able to communicate. And knowing all the grammar really well, but not having the vocab, you wouldn't be able to speak. So yes, vocabulary first. In fact, vocabulary first, second, and third, most important thing by far. Then grammar and pronunciation. And I would say pronunciation is more important than grammar because, and especially for languages like English, a lot of people complain that they can't understand, also for other languages. But if you know all the words but you can't understand native speakers, it's because your knowledge of pronunciation is bad. You don't know what real English is supposed to sound like. A lot of Spanish people, like, but I know my accent's not perfect, but I don't say mountain, for example. Everyone in Spain says mountain for mountain, or things like that, like vegetables for vegetables. And then when they hear it in real life, they're like, what? And because they don't know the right pronunciation. So obviously, the right pronunciation, you learn it by listening, right? It's not, and by doing shadowing and things like that. But yeah, lots of vocab first. Like most important thing, vocabulary. If you don't have the vocab, you have nothing. Then pronunciation, especially for comprehension, and then grammar. Grammar is the least important and the easiest. Believe it or not, the easiest to learn if you do it right. And if there's one thing that comprehensible input is great for, is learning grammar. If you do enough listening and reading, you learn the grammar. Fine. You could also speed up the process by doing active recall with complete sentences. Lots of grammar there. Like, all the grammar is included. You just translate the sentences into the target language and then get the right answer. And sooner rather than later, you'll get most of them or all of them